All right. Hi, folks. If you're watching this, it's because you're interested in 233A Niven Drive. And we had the opportunity today to speak with one of the owners, Nick Bevington, who along with his partner Sandra own 233A Niven. And this is a home, you know, when I first got the opportunity to work with you, I was very excited because this is a home that, well, I live right down the street and drive by it every day. And it's one of those homes that you always wonder what it looks like inside. You know it's got to be impressive just because of the structure of the house. And sure enough, it is. I mean, it's a truly stunning home. And it's great to have this opportunity to talk to you about it because you, better than anyone, know all the details about all of its unique energy efficient features. And so that's something that I'm hoping we can talk to you about today. So I guess to start, Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
Well, thanks a lot for having me on here, Adrian. This is a great opportunity to highlight our home. And my name is Nick Bevington, and I'm previously a resident of Yellowknife and worked up in the north for a number of years. I'm a structural and civil engineer by trade, and I took on this project early in my career and was able to integrate a lot of the things that we felt were important in having a home in Yellowknife. We were able to I get a lot. We won a lot draw in 2003, and then planned the house for at least a year, and started construction in 2004. At that time, the Niven Lake subdivision was just in its, I think we were in their third phase or fourth phase, so it was still fairly undeveloped in the area. And this gave us a good opportunity to do what we wanted to do up there. And one of the things that our main objectives were to create a comfortable and healthy living space to raise our family in, and knowing full well that especially during the winter months in Yellowknife, you do the house, the residence. We incorporated as many elements as we could to achieve those goals. We used a post and beam framing structure to frame the building, and then we incorporated an exterior insulation system, which was primarily used in more of a commercial type of construction. It is a more costly way to build, but it did eliminate a lot of the challenges that conventional residential construction have with their building envelope design. We have an exterior insulation system that eliminates the thermal bridging that usually attributes to heat loss, and therefore, making sure that we got as much out of the envelope as we could to achieve our goals of efficiency, comfortability, and healthy living space.
So Nick, I'm going to bring up I'm going to screen share here so that as we're talking, we can take a look at the house. So just bear with me for 1 second.
Yep.
Okay, right. Go ahead, Nick, thank you.
Yeah, so the building is, like I said, is a post and beam frame structure. The framing materials are glulam, and they were very useful in this project because we were looking for that interior appearance a lot of wood and strong looking structure. We were able to accomplish that with the glue lam and the tongue and groove decking. Now what you see between the glue lam beams is actually structural subfloor for the floor above, but it also provides a very pleasant ceiling finish, and we have that throughout the main floor ceiling and the second floor ceiling. So these were design features that we were able to accomplish by using the post and beam framing. And we also accomplished, as it is a duplex, a very good fire rated, sound resistant wall with this concrete masonry unit wall. And it also helps frame the structure, which is, like I said, the glue lam post and beam structure. With this system, like I said earlier, we could apply an exterior insulation system, which is essentially a big blanket over the whole framing, the entire framing, which is the materials used for that were a expanded polystyrene, and we've got 6 inches of that on the walls and 10 inches on the ceiling, on the roof. We spent 15 years in this house, and we've enjoyed our time immensely. We enjoy the living space. We've got, as you can see, a lot of space, and it's very comfortable. So we accomplished our goals when we set out to build this place, and we're very happy to be sharing it with any potential buyers or people that share some of these same interests.
Well, and I think a lot of people do share these interests. Energy efficiency is such an important thing, and our interior spaces up here in the north are so important for our quality of life. And everybody would love to have high ceilings like this, and the dramatic beam, that's just amazing. The difficulty, though, of course, is the cost, right? You normally see a ceiling like this and you go, holy cow, that's got to be expensive to heat. But that's where the unique features of this home really come in, and the energy efficient construction. And it's unique. A lot of this we haven't really seen before. I mean, this was, and we'll get to the pellet boiler in a moment, but this was the first time for me, and I've seen a lot of homes in this town, and the first time to see a lot of these things. So why don't we talk a little bit more about the passive solar? Now, you've said that, so this really stunning concrete block wall, it absorbs heat, and I suppose that probably the reverse is true. In the summer, it probably keeps the home cooler, right? Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, that of course was one of our, the primary structural components of the building, which also serves a second and third role. The second role is being a massive thermal mass, but it's also the aesthetics of it were quite pleasing with the framing and the interior finishes that we decided to use. But that concrete block wall does a lot of storing for our heat. So not only does it passively store heat from the south-facing windows in the springtime, we get a lot of sun in the building on the south, and that solar heat, the passive solar heat, is absorbed into the wall. So, you may not notice the temperature increase in the house, because with that heavy thermal mass, it absorbs into the wall and then stores itself for, when when you need to balance the heat in the house, because if you've got the storage ability and that heat stored, your thermostat, the temperature in the building doesn't change very much. So the boiler will not have to provide as much heat during the evenings in the spring, because you've got so much stored in the wall. Now that also applies with the floor we used in the main floor. You can't see it, but underneath this floating cork floor is actually a 5-inch structure, composite concrete steel floor, which also acts as a thermal mass to absorb energy from the sun. And it also is part of the heating system, as we have hydronic heating lines cast into the concrete of that floor system. So it's a very, very pleasant way to heat in the north. You know, all the heat is coming at you from the floor up. So it's a very comforting feeling to walk on that floor. And you know, in some places, people do in-floor heating, but where this is superior is that it can actually store a lot of that heat as well, and more evenly disperse it throughout the floor. And with the cork is actually a very good medium between yourself, your body, and the concrete floor. It cushions the concrete floor, but it also helps to more evenly distribute that heat. We're very happy with the floor and how it's improved our standard of living within that house and our comfort levels. So yeah, it's served a number of purposes. First, structurally, and then as a thermal mass, and then also very versatile in, you know, when you want to replace the flooring. That's just a floating floor and was installed in one day. So, you know, the versatility on the main floor with the floor finishes is another big factor that we found, you know, once we got living with concrete floor in the main floor.
Nick, you've mentioned just the desirability of in-floor heating and hydronic heating, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, for one thing, you know, is the air condition, the air quality is greater, but also just the quiet, you know, the lack of noise from not having a forced air furnace. So that's really very nice. Excellent. So can you tell us a little bit let's talk about your hot water system. Okay.
Well, we have, just like any other home, we need hot water. And we use it for washing dishes, all of those things that a normal home would use hot water for. The only thing is that we're able, with the installation of this solar hot water collector on the south side of the building, we're able to preheat the city water, which comes into the building at about 2 degrees C. And we're able to preheat in the spring and summer during the heavy, high concentration of solar months. We're able to preheat that water from 2 degrees C to up in around 15 to 16 degrees C. So what that means is that we have what we call a preheat tank in our mechanical room, separate from our normal domestic hot water tank. So that preheat tank takes the 2 degree C water and preheats it to, you know, 15, and some days it's up to 20. It can get quite hot. And it allows us to draw from that preheat tank into our regular hot water tank, and then top it up to temperature, so that you know, you can have your hot showers and wash your dishes and do your laundry. So we're we're able to save a significant amount of energy by utilizing the sun and these solar hot water collectors, or this solar hot water collector, to preheat that water. So we've had good success with that, and that system has been installed, for over 12 years now, and it's fairly maintenance free. There is you need to spend maybe a half an hour charging the system once a year, and that's a very simple procedure. But this preheat tank allows you to not have to heat your city water from 2 degrees C. It's actually
Nick, it's almost like the Con Mine concept, right? The geothermal, which was contemplated years ago, where they weren't going to bring the water up at, full hot temperature, but it was going to be a few degrees warmer than it otherwise would be, which was going to save, over the long haul, it was going to save a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. So in addition to this solar collector and preheat tank, our boiler also heats the hot water. So this is a feature that that we didn't originally have in the building, but probably 5 years ago we added it, and it's been seamless. It works very well. But in the summertime, we don't normally have the boiler on. So what we do is the hot water tank can top up the temperature from the preheat tank with just electricity. It's a conventional domestic hot water tank.
Excellent. And so you've got the collector, but you've also got, I guess, what would be then called active solar panels. Is that right? Or
yeah, we've got the photovoltaic solar panels. This small array is about 1 kilowatt, and we recently installed this last summer. So we haven't totally seen the full benefit of it, but based on the data that is available in Yellowknife and nationally, we've got through a number of different agencies. The Arctic Energy Alliance is one of those agencies, but they provided us some data on this, and Yellowknife, due to the high cost of electricity and the utility allowing you to net meter, which means generate your own electricity with solar and then feed it back into the grid, as this one is set up to do. You can actually, this small array of 1 kilowatt will retail for approximately, the sale of the power back to the utility will retail at about $430 a year. So just with this small array, which is wired directly into our service, our electrical service, and set up on what they call a net metering system, this small array will make you those savings in a year. So we're pretty happy about that, and we've also set it up so that in the future you can add at least another 4 kilowatts of solar to the roof, and just increase that the economics of the net metering.
And the economics keep getting better and better as the cost of these panels comes down, and every so often the government will offer grants as well. That seems to have been the case in the past, and I'm sure it will in the future. So that really makes a lot of sense. And so let's move on and talk about the main attraction here, I think, is the pellet boiler. And I had to say, I've never encountered a home where there wasn't a backup furnace, either oil or propane. This is a building that has 2 pellet boilers, and in case of an emergency, it would have an electric backup. But I mean, it's a testament to the design of the system that you haven't had to really use that, and that this has worked very reliably for you. So what can you tell us about the pellet boiler system?
Well, I can tell you that just to rewind to the thermal masses, because they're part of this system. the main floor structural slab, and the concrete block wall. When they're heated, those two elements within the building structure will actually maintain the heat in the house above freezing for approximately 48 to 36 hours. So 36 to 48 hours. So what we've got is, and that's in the dead of winter as well. So this boiler system obviously feeds that concrete slab. So we have a lot of comfort in the sense that once the building is heated up from this boiler, if there ever is any issues, such as power outages, small maintenance that needs to be done, we have a very good feeling that we're not going to be dealing with freeze ups, because with all that mass, it takes and the good insulation system, it takes so long for it to cool off that if you had issues, you could deal with those. This boiler is 130,000 BTUs, and it is big enough to heat both sides of the duplex, and but it can be scaled down as it is here to just heat the one side. It's a Canadian-made model. This unit itself is probably almost, I'd say 18 years old. And we've learned a lot about it. And we've done simple maintenance on it. And we've had it heating our house for the full time that we've lived there. It is a little different operation to your propane or your heating fuel, in the sense that that we feed it with bags of pellets that are delivered to our yard on a pallet, 65 bag pallet, and we load them and burn our fuel and create our heat that way with the pellet fuel. I've also worked on other projects where we've installed exterior silos outside of the building that automatically feed into this bin you see on the right side. So with my neighbor and I have had a lot of experience with these boilers. We do have two of them in our place, but there's at least half a dozen to 8 of them around Yellowknife already, and a couple in Fort Smith as well. So we have a lot of experience with these boilers. They're very kind of utilitarian in style, but their effectiveness and their simplicity makes them very effective. So we've like I said, we use the boiler for our heat, and we use it for our domestic hot water, and the maintenance on it is a little bit more than your conventional wood or propane. Like I would say 45 minutes every 6 weeks, something like that, to clean out the ash. But it's a small sacrifice to know that you've got a very small carbon footprint with this type of heating source. There's next to zero emissions from it. We're very fortunate to not have the liability of an oil tank on our property, so we've eliminated that potential liability, and we've also been able to save a lot of money. Typically we've been able to offset the cost compared to a similar size building by you know, up to $1,000 a month, or sorry, a season. So we're I think over the average over the lifespan of the building, we've been able to save over, you know, just north of $100 a month on our fuel costs compared to our heating costs compared to if this was a conventional oil-fired boiler. As you can see on the second chart here, well, the first chart, let's go through that. The first chart just illustrates the last 4 heating seasons. You know, we're looking, when we talk about pellet volumes, we talk in tones, which is 1,000 kilograms in 1 ton. So we're typically burning 7 tons a season, and the cost of that has been very stable, and it's usually in the range of between, you know, $33 to, you know, $4,000 per year for heating, maybe a little bit more in 2018-19 because we were, you know, we had, sorry, that was a fuel. I think it's between 22 to 2,900 a season for heating. And in the bottom chart, you could see the equivalent in diesel fuel, or home heating fuel, would be considerably more. The equation that is used to equate the two is 1 ton equals 500 liters. So we've used that to come up with these numbers, and these are industry standard numbers that can be found on the Arctic Energy Alliance website or other sources. And yeah, you can see it's a significant savings over a heating season. You know, we've been able to save that money and use it for such things as vacations. So it's been a win-win-win having the wood pellet boiler system. And this was the first wood pellet boiler system in a residence in Yellowknife.
And Nick, was J&R Mechanical involved in the?
Yeah, that's who was our mechanical contractor, and since then, you know, they've taken off in the renewable energy wood pellet heating market, and they've done considerably well. They're now supplying pellets as well, and you know, they've always been good allies of ours.
I think they must be. I know they're the biggest mechanical contractor in town. I think they may also be the longest running. So that, I think, is comforting for people to know that there's a really reliable contractor who's there to troubleshoot or provide service. And I just wanted to comment that, you know, when we were first talking about your heating costs, when I saw these numbers, I got really frustrated at my own housing situation, because I live in a much smaller home and we're lucky to crack 4,000 a year. So these are incredibly low costs here. And it is interesting that, you know, even if you were using home heating oil, diesel, it would still be quite low. And this is just a testament to the energy efficient construction techniques that you used. So I think that's really fascinating. So let's go on and talk about a comparison with some other homes. And what we did here was we took a look at a couple of recently sold homes in the Niven Lake neighborhood, took a look at their square footages. The challenge, of course, is that your ceilings are so high. You have so much cubic footage that we had to try to make a comparison here that was fair in really looking at ceiling heights and taking a look at how much cubic footage you would have to heat in this home relative to these other homes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this page?
Well, yeah, and you know, thanks to Century 21 for providing us some of this data on these other residences, because, you know, that's really the only way to compare, you know, what we have going on compared to, you know, more of the conventional residents. So as you can see, our cubic footage with the large ceilings, all vaulted ceilings, open space, was considerably high for our square footage. Like we were at 2674 square feet, and our cubic footage was considerably more than or just a bit more than a 3,500 or almost 3,600 square foot comparable house. So we do have a lot of volume in our house, and that goes back to my original points about, you know, creating that healthy and comforting space that you need to spend so much time in. And what we do find really interesting here on the second chart is that, you know, after we calculated the cubic footage of the 4 residences, we looked at the, you know, the annual fuel consumption. And, you know, of course we burn pellets, so we had to use the formula to convert to fuel to compare properly. But we were almost at 9 cubic foot per liter. So we're heating 9 cubic feet with 1 liter, where these other residents that we show here could only reach a maximum of 5.5 cubic feet per liter. Of course, these are all estimated values, but you know, there is a drastic difference between, you know, what you're heating for space in our place compared to what your heating costs would be for these other residents and their space.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing to see those numbers. It's really wonderful to see that, you know, the results are there and that this has worked for you. So I did, since we've got a couple minutes left here, I thought I might have an opportunity to ask you something else about the home that I've been dying to know about since I first had my first look at it. And it's this room. First of all, this is the coolest kids' room I've ever seen for a variety of reasons. The number one reason, though, and let's go to the virtual tour, up this ladder, this catwalk space. What is the story there? Because that's an awesome space up there.
Why don't you go back to the, okay, so right below the main wall, right above the main wall, the white wall that you were just looking at, no, back the other way. That wall is connecting to our bathroom.
Right there.
There, yes. So that's connecting to our second floor bathroom. Now, we wanted to have a more intimate bathroom, and we didn't want the bathroom going right to the ceiling in that location. So what we did is we framed a floor on top of the bathroom. And if you go back into the bathroom area, you can see that, you know, a 10-foot ceiling in there compared to, you know, 18-foot. So we wanted to achieve that in the bathroom. So that left us with this space above the bathroom to the ceiling. So when we were designing this room, we said, well, we need to build access to this space. And that came with, you know, this, it's almost like it's a structural valence in a way, that catwalk. We framed this catwalk and then provided access to that space.
That's, you know, it's screaming for a beanbag chair up there. And I wish, it's funny because when you look at our virtual tour here, it actually describes this area above pink bedroom. Now that's the folks in Ontario who actually take the digital file and turn it into this 3D floor plan, knew there was something up there, but the photographer hadn't taken photos. So it's just this labeled space that doesn't show anything. But that's the first time I've ever seen that. It's like a hidden space up there. And I know that a lot of kids would really, truly enjoy that space. I know that's a bit of a tangent from our discussion about energy efficient features, but it's such a cool feature. I just wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, it's another space within the residence. And, you know, when we have family up visiting us. It's a great place to put a futon down and for somebody to crash out up there too, right?
Yeah.
We've, it's been great. And, you know, with the long winters, all this extra space is just makes it so much more enjoyable.
That's excellent. And you know what? I mean, it's not winter now, and I wanted to show you a picture that I took today. You know, people who are watching this, who are considering moving to Yellowknife, need to know about the Niven Lake Trail. That's the trail right behind your house here. There's your view of Niven Lake. And there's a trail that's 1.7 kilometers that goes around here, and it's packed gravel the entire way. Very, you know, really very well used and appreciated by Yellowknife residents. Quite possibly one of our best natural assets within city limits. And one of the main reasons is the birds. And I took that picture today. There's a ton of resident ducks. And of course, in May, there's a lot more than just the resident ducks. There's all kinds of birds passing through. So it's truly an amazing space. It's an amazing home. And, you know, whoever buys this home is, you know, not only going to benefit from the really unique energy efficient construction techniques that you've used, but just a downright beautiful home that is going to provide, you know, enjoyment for some lucky family. And of course, you know, we hope we find that family soon, and we know that they'll have more questions about energy efficient construction and the other aspects of this home. So Nick, hopefully, you know, I can contact you and perhaps we can answer some more questions in a future virtual open house. But I've taken up a lot of your time today. So I just wanted, I guess, ask if you have any closing comments before we sign off.
Well, I'm more than willing to spend some more time with anybody who's interested in some of the features of this home. And, you know, we put a lot of heart and soul into this, and it is, it kind of, you know, makes me a little bit, you know, nervous to see, you know, it could leave my hands here, and that's kind of the plan. But, you know what, I know the next people that come in are going to thoroughly enjoy it, and it'll make their time in Yellowknife so much more enjoyable. You know, there's just something about having a good space when you're living in the subarctic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Nick. It's a beautiful home. Thank you for all of your help today.
Great. Thank you, Adrian.
All right. Have a good day.
Take care.